It's good to be with you this morning as we continue in our season, our big season of ordinary time, our green season, and we continue to reflect in year one of the daily lectionary cycle, right? There's 2 years, and we're in year one at this time. We're reflecting on Genesis in chapter 28, so we've moved on quite a bit since the creation of the world, and we continue to go with the story of Jacob. And so Jacob continues in his journey, and this is what we heard about today was God's first appearance to him. And the purpose of God appearing to Jacob in the story, Yahweh appearing to him, is to confirm the promise he made to Abraham. And the events that we hear about today occur in Canaan. Right? Canaan is the land of promise, and that is the land that Jacob and his sons will later return to. And you might have noticed, if you're really clued in, the name Bethel is a name that shows up. That's a main religious shrine later on. You know, in this dream here, which is probably the one of the highlights of the story, is with this dream that he has. There's a few different ways to interpret it, and I do want to point out that I wonder if the dream was affected by the stone edition of My Pillow that he's sleeping on, right? This is the early model that didn't work out too well. And so, so hopefully he put something on top of the stone, right, as well. But anyway, so in this dream that he has, he is basically being strengthened by God. That's one way to look at it, for the years of exile from the promised land that he and his family will have. But it's such a striking dream, right, where he sees this stairway, this ladder essentially, and he sees God's messengers going up and down it, maybe angels. And it's likely, even though we have a tendency of depicting this in art as like an actual workman's ladder, it is much, much more likely that it would have resembled the stairs of a ziggurat, or something along the lines of stairs to a temple. It would have looked less like a ladder and more like something like this: the steps to a sanctuary, right? Traditionally, when they built churches, and this unfortunately has fallen away to a great extent, there was an expectation you would have 7 steps, as it were, on your way up to the altar. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You'd have a very large number of steps to go up. And so the sanctuary that I'm in and speaking to you from, and the altar area, is, kind of in some ways based on the Jerusalem temple, and it's an image, supposedly it's an image of heaven. It's an image of where God dwells, right? As Catholics, we believe that when we celebrate Mass, God does in fact come to us through transubstantiation in the Eucharist. And so there's a very powerful connection with that. Again, as I said, Jacob would not have really thought of a ladder so much. He would have thought of like the steps to a temple. There are some other interpretations of the meaning of this passage, and another one is that it's like the incarnation, and that the connection between heaven and earth is the incarnation of Jesus. But the Blessed Mother is another fulfillment of the image, that our Blessed Mother, through her yes to God, to the incarnation, that she is able to bring humanity and God together. And so Our Lady herself is a fulfillment of this vision, and it's a very powerful thing to reflect on. And then we move on to our gospel today. So this story is, we've heard it many times, right? There's a couple of things happening. There's a young girl restored to life, and there is a much older woman who is healed. It makes me think of some of my early experiences as a priest, of just the the tendency of people to kind of fall on you. You know, when I was ordained at Nativity Cathedral in 2015, and I remember that I was asked to go over to the community center, you know, the building over there to bless people, because people like to receive blessings from newly ordained priests. And so I stood at a, behind a kneeler or something, and a lot of people wanted to be blessed. And the line went on, and people came in and chatted, and they enjoyed the meal. And they were putting the food away, and people still wanted to be blessed. And some people had been blessed more than once, I could tell. But it made me think about this, what Jesus is going through in a sense, because he's on his way to heal the little girl, and then the woman is trying to touch his cloak. And there's a tendency, there's like an unlimited need for ministry, right? There's like an unlimited need. There's no point where people don't need the ministry. And so, my thought about this is we're really seeing Jesus Christ as a priest. We're really seeing the priesthood, the high priesthood of Christ, the ministerial priesthood of Jesus, and what he's doing in his ministry to build up people, in this case to save life on the natural level. And my thought with this is to maybe take some time, if you have a chance today, and go back to this scripture and reflect on a little bit. Because look at how the crowd reacts to Jesus. Do they applaud him when he says he's going to go heal the little girl? And they ridiculed him. When you witness to the power of God, when you witness to God who is life itself, and they ridiculed him. We declare as a church that every life is sacred. We do not have the right to kill a child, to destroy a life, no matter how inconvenient, no matter even how tragic the circumstances of that child's conception might be. The response in Latin, the word they use, turba, turbulent, from the crowd is usually, and they ridicule us. So we are called to protect and defend and to stand up for God's teachings, even in the midst of the anger, the aggression, and the ridicule that comes from the world that we often experience. And so to let this be an inspiration to us. So if we have time today, let's return to the scripture and continue to allow Christ to speak to us today through it.